Right. You Yeah, we just watched the first 4 episodes of season 2 of House of the Dragon, and without any further ado, I'd like to know what your take has been. Yeah, yeah, a lot of, a lot of intrigue, right? It reminds me altogether of the first season. However, I felt like season 2 has been more, um, better paced, and there's been a little bit more action, and I think the whole Viserys um, like biography and life cycle in season one kind of slowed down the series in a way that was appealing, but was a little too gravitational. It had a little too much revolving around him as a character, as a central figure. Season two doesn't really have one central figure. Season two has two different sides of the house, two different factions. I guess you could say Aegon is on one side, and remind me her name, Ramira was Rhaenyra on the other side, right? And they each have their own sort of miscreant characters. Like uh, Aedmond is on Aegon's side, and then of course, or he seems to be. And then you have Damien on Rhaenyra's side, and there's a lot of tension immediately. I would say though that Damien doesn't really pick up as a character until the second episode of season two, and likewise, Aemond doesn't really pick up until later into the mid season. And at episode four, he goes pretty crazy. Remind me which one is Vagar? Yeah, that's right. That's what I thought. It sounded like a dragon name. And that's the dragon that basically murders two dragons in episode four. Yeah, we don't really know yet if he is killed. We saw his nearly lifeless corpse in the last scene of episode four. And obviously Christian Cole is kind of, probably going to be demoted from Lord Protector. And I can't imagine him having the same power in the next episode that he's had in the last two episodes. What do you think of Christian Cole? He's obviously not. He's nefarious. He's a scapegoat. He kind of he sent Eric to his death. Like he just sent Eric to die for no fucking reason. Probably because he didn't want him competing with him. Yeah, yeah. He all he wants to do is fuck Alicent. I think that's the one thing that's clear, and it's a major character flaw. And I'm looking forward to his timely demise, which I'm sure will happen pretty soon, next week perhaps. Yeah. Yeah. And so who do you think what faction do you root for? Aedmund is intriguing, but I just think he's a little too sour and dour. I don't trust it. Oh yeah, on the green side, he's kind of the best character. Alicent is okay. I kind of want to see the hand come back. What was his name? The Otto Hightower, right? I kind of want to see him come back because he's always influential and is a strong screen presence. Um, I do believe that on the Blacks side, you have a lot more nobility in the characters' personalities, like Rhaenyra, Daemon, even just random characters on the Blacks seem to have like the whole what was her name? The woman who died in season four, the rode the dragon. Corlys seems like a decent Lord and his wife died unfortunately, but she was a really strong character throughout the series. I think the blacks have a kind of more going for them as a powerhouse. I don't imagine the Greens are going to fare very well. But now that Aegon may still be alive, and he may have some tricks up his sleeve, and with Edmund there, they could be a very strong duo rivaling. He is a sod. Yeah, Aegon has a lot to learn, and you kind of doubt him at this point. Maybe he can't learn, and you want him to be like Viserys and Damien, but you just don't think that he has it in him. And honestly, Aedmund I think is a little too treacherous. I don't think it's right to compare him completely to Damien. Damien has a loyalty streak that I don't know if Aedmund really has. Yeah. Yeah, Aidman and Damien are going to be some sort of rivalry is going to emerge if it hasn't already. And what do you think of this fortress? What do they call it? The one that's haunted. The Damien's. Yeah. What do you think is going to happen there? I'm really fascinated by the witch. You know the woman who lives there who's like a witch who I'm fascinated by her alchemy. She makes these potions and stuff. It's going to be a wild ride. What'd you say? Yeah, like she's got some sort of sexuality about her, but it's almost like deceptive, and it probably is not going to lead to any road other than a road to ruin. What do you say for the what are they called, the Brackens and the Blackwoods? What do you think about that? Do you think what it looks like to me is that the Blackwoods are going to keep siding with the blacks, and the Brackens will go to the Greens. But right now, the Blackwoods have sweared fealty of some kind to Damien, as a grace, I guess he called. They say your grace to him. He's the king consort. I think what's going to turn around is that the Brackens will easily join up with the Greens, and then they'll have a whole nother complement, a whole nother host to go up against the Blackwoods. I think this army that got tarnished in episode 4, I think this army is going to rebound, and I don't know if the dragon battle is really going to have a devastating, lasting impact on supply. Yeah, the one that got killed, right? Yeah. Yeah, and also that fortress, now that it's destroyed, it's pretty much useless for whoever has it. Yeah, but when the dragon fell and crushed the wall and killed the woman, the blonde woman, they it destroyed the whole town, like basically destroyed it as a bastion. Yeah, it wasn't the most important castle by any means. Not by any means. Okay, and then do you like this season more than season 1? What'd you say? Yeah, season 1 gave you the necessary background and details to appreciate season 2. I can't imagine watching season 2 without knowing the backstory that was really well established and in thorough detail by season 1. The who's your favorite character? And by the way, do you like Allison over Rhaenyra, or do you like Rhaenyra over Allison? But first, who's your favorite character? My favorite character, I think Damien's my favorite character. I like Otto Hightower somewhat. I also like I liked Eric and Eric, but they died. So, and that was a pretty gnarly duel they had to deal with. I thought it was a little stupid actually because he kills himself in the end. He falls on his own sword. I believe the Black's Eric. And I felt like that was lame. Like just because he murdered his brother doesn't mean he has to kill himself. I mean, he was already what? Yeah, he was doing his job defending his queen. I mean, it makes total sense that he would kill his own brother, who was a defector, or at least on the opposition the whole way through. I also think the sword play in Game of Thrones and in House of the Dragon has not really been at the level that I've always wanted it to be. Usually, when they get in a sword fight, it's when someone's about to die, and it's usually like who's going to die. They don't really have a lot of gratuitous fighting, which is something that sounds like a waste of time, but I think in a series like this can have a lot of dramatic notes to it. Um, so I like Damien a lot, and I like Otto Hightower, and I like I kind of like this witch character, this woman who's just been introduced. I kind of like her. Now, as for Rhaenyra versus Alicent, I think Rhaenyra's strength is that she has the wisdom of Viserys, but she doesn't really have the power that he had, and she doesn't have the experience that he had. And I'm concerned that Alicent is more treacherous and cunning in a subtle way. I don't know if Rhaenyra is really that cunning or that subtle. She seems to me kind of predictable. And honestly, and frankly, I think she might be incapable of running her own kingdom. Yeah, Otto. Well, now he has a master of whispers, right? He got rid of an effect. That guy is more cunning than Littlefinger. I mean, Littlefinger is a schemer, and he was cunning for certain. But this new guy, he's more ambiguous. You really don't know what he wants, and that's terrifying. Whereas Otto Hightower, you kind of felt like stability was his main cause and everything, and that was a little too predictable, sort of like Rhaenyra. I think for the Greens faction, Hightower is basically equivalent to Rhaenyra. Although Rhaenyra has a problem that her own council doesn't really respect her, which is ironic because Aegon his own council won't even listen to him. So I guess the councils at this in this trying time aren't really that useful unless they're very involved in one procedure or another, like this guy who's now the Whisperer or the Greens. And did you like the last battle, like with the dragons? I mean, I thought it was so phenomenal seeing these dragons in full flight. Yeah, they did a good deal of trade-off between boots on the grounds and wings in the air. I also like that my favorite moment was when they had the lord of the castle walk out onto the Barbican and then they're like, you have to come inside, like come inside, my lord. And he decides he has the intuition to stay outside and watch the dragon fight, like he knows the dragons aren't there for him. I thought that was kind of neat, a good detail. And what's also intriguing is that it feels more like Lord of the Rings. It feels starting to feel a little bit like Minas Tirith or Helm's Deep. It's starting to feel like the Black Gates again. Like it's not an overly politicized fantasy experience. There is actual combat, sweeping, massive scale battles with large armies. And I think Christian Cole is a really complex antagonist because he does have this noble streak to him, but it's tarnished by his sort of self-indulgent lust and his sort of, crass power grabs that he does. And I actually think that you know how you remember how he killed the uh the lord of that particular castle by chopping off his head, and he said this will be returned in kind, and he kind of cursed Christian Cole. And then in the following scene, or a scene a couple scenes later, he his son asked about his dad. Where's my dad? I was like, oh yeah, he was murdered. He was decapitated. That guy's going to come into the fray, and he will probably be the one to kill Christian Cole in some way or another. Did he have an affair with Rhaenyra in season? But was it a long-standing one, like, or was it just like a tryst? And then who are he has kids though, right? Like he has like some of the bastard children are his. Oh, that's a different character. Okay, my mistake. By the way, how long have we been meeting for? Because I do have to go soon to a sort of um camping activity, uh a class of sorts at this comedy club. 25 minutes. Okay, we might cut it short. I mean, I don't know exactly what to say. I'm glad we're talking about it. I will say that there just isn't a lot of combat that is, unit against unit. There is not a lot of personable combat going on. There's a lot of choreographed sort of assassinations, and there's a lot of, cloak and dagger. I'm starting to think that Game of Thrones is sort of like Star Trek, whereas Lord of the Rings is a little more like Star Wars. And there's like in the Lord of the Rings and in Star Wars, they have a heavy emphasis on dueling and the honor code of being a soldier, a warrior, uh, a fighter. In House of the Dragon and Game of Thrones broadly, it's a lot more about the sort of political attitudes of the operators in various power roles. It's a lot more about intrigue, and it's a lot more about the boldness of speech and the boldness of intention. So, without further ado, I mean, do you think this show is going to have more seasons, or do you think it's going to wrap up? Okay, okay. And do you think if can you imagine a new character being introduced? And if you can, what do you think they'll be like? What do you hope they'll be like? Do you think anyone will be brought back that hasn't been seen yet? Okay. Who is someone from House of the Dragon? Oh, you know who's going to be brought back is that bastard son of Corlys, the one who rescued him. He's going to do something. I'm not sure if it's going to be very consequential, but he'll do something, and he'll be remembered for it. Yeah. Do you think there's going to be other shows in the works? And have you heard anything about the Rings of Power sequel, the next season? I saw the first season and I liked it, but it was very bizarre. It was not like a typical show. It was too much of a fantasy for me. Oh yeah, it's very politically grounded. Rings of Power wasn't really political at all. It reminded me of like Willow or Legend or like some like or like Labyrinth, like an 80s fantasy movie that had like all these like flying colors and stuff. And weird costumes. It just had no real major development in its character arcs, and it had no real plot line that was unpredictable. It was a very predictable story. But yeah, House of the Dragon. I've been watching a number of TV shows lately because I've had some time to do it. The schedule has opened up, and I can say that a lot of the stuff on House of the Dragon beats out a lot of the shows. Like I saw this show called Tires, which is a comedy show, granted, but it was one of the best things I've seen in a while on Netflix. And House of the Dragon is by far the best show I've seen in probably a year. You know? So I'm very excited for the July 17th episode. And I hope you are too, right? I mean it's a very fun enterprise to be watching all these cool shows right now. Oh, 14th. Oh, very soon. Okay. All right. All right, Evan. Well, without further ado, man, we'll reconvene later, and I guess we'll call it a wrap. All right. You too. All right. That was Evan. Zoom meeting 40 minutes. Okay. So it says the 40-minute Zoom meeting. I guess that'll be it. This is the Remembering Truth podcast. This has been a Cinephiles episode, special edition for the House of the Dragon half season panel review or whatever review panel that we did. And I think it's been a great run watching these fantasy shows. I love reviewing them because they're so out of my own world and they're in some other faraway mystical experience, and it's very detached from the everyday. So it's mundane in the sense that it's a setting that resembles planet Earth, and it's very grounded, but it's also very like very you know sort of diaphanous and wondrous and potentiating. And I think a series like House of the Dragon is just what you need to sort of, you know, clear out the cobwebs in your own imagination, and start to look at life again in perspective of renewal. So yeah, um, without running amok with the commentary, I don't know how long it's been, but I think we can look forward to some more great music reviews, some great film reviews, and coming up, we're gonna do television. We're gonna do um, I don't know. I mean, what's if there's movies, television, there's music. What else could there be? Book reviews, play reviews, anything under the sun. All right. Have a wonderful evening. Good night and good luck. It's PB Richardson.